Here's the shocker. China announces that it is going to stop stockpiling US dollars. Of course, mostly ignored by the mainstream media. But the Central Bank of China has decided that it will no longer be in China's favor to accumulate foreign exchange reserves. During the third quarter of 2013, China's foreign exchange reserves were valued at approximately 3.6 trillion, and as you know, a lot of that is US dollar debt, not in its entirety though. So, since China has announced that the time has come for it to stop stockpiling US dollars, and it says which would also mean if you stop stockpiling US dollars, then obviously you're not exactly stockpiling our debt anymore, which also means you're not up to the old treasury window like you used to be, first in line to buy up all them auctions. China has all this, I mean, their dollar against our dollar, I mean, it's not even close. I mean, like, you know, most of the world anyways, our dollar, you know, strong dollar, US, you know, values a lot greater than everywhere else, you know, compared to their dollars, other countries. And China likes their dollar a lot less than ours because they can manufacture very inexpensive goods and ship them all over the place, especially to the US, to Walmart, to the dollar store, you name it. And basically, that's where we get all of our crap from. You flip anything over on the shelf, pretty much anywhere. But you want to talk about somewhere like the dollar store or Walmart, everything you flip over, like literally everything, as far as you know, not food, but any other item, made in China, made in China, made in China. So what happens when we've accumulated so much debt ourselves? Again, China used to be first in line for a long time to buy our debt. First in line when those treasury auctions would happen. Second in line was Japan. Now, an interesting thing happened in 2011. I've mentioned this before. As of 2011 and going forward, it has not changed. The U.S. Federal Reserve is now the #1 purchaser of those treasury auctions. And as you know, in order for us to borrow money that we need, we have to auction off those treasury notes. And for an equal amount of money that we're borrowing, you know, if we need $100 billion, we gotta sell off $100 billion in these newly created treasury bonds. Whoever buys the bonds essentially is giving us the $100 billion, and then we pay them over the course of whether, you know, 10-year, 30-year, whatever kind of bond it is, interest on that bond for that length of time. So I believe also what happens at the end of the lifespan of that bond is that, so let's say it's a 30-year bond, you've been paying interest to somebody to let you borrow your own money. Essentially is what this means. You've paid somebody interest for 30 years or 10 years, again, it depends on the type of bond. But those, anyways, I need to get off track. So we all been paying that, right? We pay someone else to let us borrow our own money, interest, okay? And then after those 10 or 30 years, we then pay them back in full what that bond was worth. So if we just, in other words, if we auctioned off $100 billion, let's say today, we auctioned off $100 billion in treasury notes, so we can get $100 billion now, we need it now. In 30 years from now, and from now till the 30 years, we were going to be making payments on that. Interest only for the most part. And then at the end of the 30 years, we pay it off in full. Here you go. Here's the whole entire $100 billion back. So as you can see, the old rob Peter to, you know, pay Paul, or, you know, I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger today kind of a thing, is how we're rolling. And it's getting bigger and more powerful as far as the amount of debt, the frequency we need more of that debt. And now we got the president who back in 2006 when he was a senator saying he refused to support raising the debt ceiling. We got to pay our bills. We can't do this. We can't let our debt ceiling rise. Is now leading the pack saying we must allow the debt ceiling to keep rising in order for us to pay our bills. We've got to pay these bills. What he means is we just have to pay the interest on the debt. The full amount cannot and will not be paid off. That's when we devalue the dollar. It's going to happen. It is an absolute mathematical certainty. Mathematics, 2 plus 2 is absolutely 4. But this is a little bit different because you get to choose when you're doing the 2 plus 2 equals 4. You get to choose when you want to do that. You get to choose whenever you want to say it or show someone that, hey, 2 plus 2 equals 4. It's up to you. But we got a problem. Our debt is a ticking time bomb. It's on a timer, basically. It's not just that maybe one day in the future we'll let the whole world know how much debt we have and how we can't pay it back. You can already see it, and it's ticking down every single day, every minute, every second, every hour, etc. So the only way out of this is to devalue the dollar. So our government, who's going to end up doing this, is going to pitch it to you when this happens, mark my words. They will pitch it to you as, hey, devaluing the dollar is not such a bad thing. Look at what China did. They've kept theirs artificially low for all these years, and they've been the production capital of the world, so to speak. They've had plenty of jobs. Now America will have to do something similar. It's not that bad. It's not a big deal to devalue the dollar. It happens from time to time. And it brings the manufacturing and the other things back to America because now our dollar is competitive with the rest of the world, which means we can compete with the rest of the world to sell goods and do trade. A lot better than we have been now because our dollar's been so expensive. Of course, no one's going to tell you that all those things you got used to importing on the shelves of Walmart and the dollar store and everywhere else that are made in China, it may not be so good for China to start selling those things to us, or to continue selling us those things for such dirt cheap prices. Because when our dollar becomes competitive, to be again competitive with China especially, that means that you could look at it this way. It would be like our dollar staying the same and China is just raising the value of their dollar. That's the same thing if China keeps its dollar where it's at and then our dollar goes down even more. And then China, of course, is going to say, well, we'll just make our dollar even less valuable. And then we'll say, well, I guess we have to also, you know, to compete. And in the meantime, prices of things are not going to be pretty because everything is imported. Just about. So when that shock, it's not like we're going to be able to have factories with a bunch of workers in America on standby for when this day comes, and we can just instantly transition ourselves off within a week or two and say, hey, that's all right, we got all these manufacturing jobs sitting here on standby, ready to pull the trigger so we can make our own stuff, value it on our own dollar, and everyone will be happy because we can provide a bunch of jobs in America. And it's not nearly as expensive as the Chinese anymore to have them bring it in here. This is great. You know, God shining His glory on America once again. No, history doesn't say it goes quite that smooth. You can have hope and faith that it may. But I'm going to have history on my side saying absolutely not. Not how that goes. Because you're going to have to feel a lot of pain in order to say whatever the government says is what they want to do next. Go ahead and do it. Just make the pain stop. Things are so expensive. Things are so crazy. We'll accept anything. Just make the pain stop. And the government's going to say, well, okay. And God only knows what that means and what they're going to do when we give them the okay to just fix things. At the same time, history will easily give up that, I'm going to say not really a freedom, but whatever it entails them taking from us. In other words, make the pain stop. Okay, we'll make the pain stop. And here's how we make the pain stop. We must seriously devalue the dollar, right? We must privatize your retirement account, or not privatize it, but basically confiscate it into the state or the government, and then you, in exchange, instead of having your stocks or whatever you were invested in as retirement or a pension or whatever you may have had, all of a sudden you are a new proud owner of treasury bonds, because China and no one else is buying them, and the Federal Reserve, who's now number one in line buying those treasury bonds, can't just keep doing that, so they need someone else to do it, and that's going to be the retirement accounts, which is why you must have gold and silver. No, I'm not going to say Bitcoin. You can, again, Bitcoin is extremely volatile. It's up, it's down, big sways up and down, lots of volatility. And yes, if you got in at the right moment, and I wish I did, you could have made a fortune. Not a small fortune, a fortune. But at the end of the day, even Bitcoin, it's a digital item on the internet that is not even acting as a currency. It's acting more like a stock, a share of a company. And at least with a share, you do get a piece of paper that says here's how many shares you have. With Bitcoin, I know it's all digital, and you look online, how many Bitcoins do I have? But you don't actually have anything in your hand. And there are 5 fundamental rules of basically the definition of money. Money has to have 5 intrinsic values, which I can't remember off the top of my head right this moment. But one of them, you must be able to carry it with you and store it with you. It must be lightweight enough to do that. It must not be able to be destroyed easily, etc. Which is why gold and silver were great. Paper money, of course, you wash it a few times, it's going to be in trouble. But even then, it does last. So, at the same time, I don't trust in it either. But, again, you can only look back at history. There were never, ever, ever such a thing as a Bitcoin in history. This is brand new. And I think that's part of the reason why the prices are going up on this thing. Is because it is new. People are starting to figure out, hey, what is this thing? It's going up crazy. But at the same time, I really have to question who's pushing that, Bitcoin trigger. So that's really, I need to do another video on that real quick, just to separate it for title purposes if someone's searching for Bitcoin, because I think I have something good enough to say about it that warrants, another video. Take care.